Hello, I'm Dr. Robert Clark. For millions of us, it's the most sacred ritual of the day, that first warm, aromatic cup of coffee. It wakes us up, gets us focused, and for many, it's a source of genuine comfort. But what if I told you that this beloved daily ritual could be a double agent? What if, while it's making you feel more alert and energetic, it's also quietly pushing your body toward a diagnosis of type 2 diabetes? For seniors, this isn't a hypothetical question. It's a clear and present danger that I see in my clinic every single week. The way your body processes caffeine and all the things we add to it changes dramatically after the age of 60. That morning cup isn't just a beverage, it's a powerful metabolic event that can have serious consequences. Let me tell you about George. George, a 68-year-old retired accountant, came to see me complaining of fatigue and blurry vision. He'd been feeling off for the better part of 2 years, but he always chalked it up to just getting older. His solution? An extra cup of coffee in the morning and another in the afternoon. He told me, "Doc, the coffee is the only thing that gets me through the day. It clears the fog." He was convinced the coffee was his solution, but in reality, it was part of the problem. His blood work came back with a fasting blood glucose level that was well into the diabetic range. George had likely been pre-diabetic or had undiagnosed type 2 diabetes for years, and his high caffeine intake was masking the symptoms. The energy he felt wasn't true energy, it was the jittery, anxious buzz of a body struggling with chronically high blood sugar, a state that his coffee was making significantly worse every single morning. To understand why, we need to look at the science of what a simple cup of black coffee does inside your body, especially a body over 60. When you drink caffeine, it stimulates your adrenal glands to release cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone. Cortisol's job in this context is to prepare you for a fight or flight situation. It does this by sending a powerful signal to your liver, telling it to release its stored sugar, called glycogen, into the bloodstream. This provides a quick source of fuel. In a healthy 30-year-old with excellent insulin sensitivity, the pancreas simply releases a bit of insulin, which efficiently escorts that new sugar out of the blood and into the cells for energy. The whole event is smooth and controlled. But in many of us over 60, a condition called insulin resistance has started to set in. Think of it this way. Your cells have little doors, and insulin is the key that unlocks them to let sugar in. With insulin resistance, those locks have become rusty. The keys don't work as well. So when George's morning coffee triggered that cortisol-driven sugar dump from his liver, his pancreas released insulin, but the cell doors wouldn't open properly. The sugar had nowhere to go. It just stayed in his bloodstream, leading to elevated blood glucose levels for hours. That fog he was feeling was a classic symptom of high blood sugar, and the coffee solution was like pouring gasoline on a fire. It gave him a temporary artificial lift while driving his underlying metabolic problem into overdrive. So I ask you to reflect on this tonight. First, do you ever feel anxious, jittery, or even a bit shaky after your coffee, rather than just calmly alert? This can be a sign that your body is struggling to manage the blood sugar spike. Second, are you using coffee to push through persistent fatigue? If so, you may be masking a critical symptom that your body is trying to send you. George's story is a wake-up call. The very thing he thought was helping him was preventing him from seeing the real problem. Type Continue to receive the next section. Now that we understand how even black coffee can disrupt blood sugar, let's talk about what most people add to it. This brings us to our first major danger zone: flavored coffee creamers. These bottles of convenience are a staple in refrigerators across the country, promising the taste of a fancy cafe latte with a simple pour. But when you turn that bottle around and look past the enticing pictures of vanilla beans or caramel swirls, you'll find an ingredient list that should make you pause. These creamers are, without exaggeration, sugar bombs in liquid form, engineered to be hyper-palatable and, unfortunately, highly damaging to your metabolic health. And the so-called sugar-free versions are often just as treacherous, swapping out one problem for another. I think of my patient, Brenda, a lovely 71-year-old woman who was meticulous about her health. She was pre-diabetic and working hard to reverse it. She had cut out desserts, started walking daily, and was very proud that she had switched to a sugar-free French vanilla creamer in her morning coffee. She believed she was making the smart, healthy choice. Yet at her 3-month follow-up, her blood sugar numbers hadn't budged. She was incredibly frustrated. "Dr. Clark, I don't understand," she said, holding up her food log. "I've been so good." The culprit was hiding in plain sight in her coffee cup. When we looked at the ingredients of her creamer, sugar wasn't the first ingredient, but the second and third were corn syrup solids and hydrogenated vegetable oil. It also contained 2 different artificial sweeteners, sucralose and acesulfame potassium. She was avoiding table sugar, yes, but she was starting her day with a cocktail of processed syrups, unhealthy fats, and artificial chemicals. Let's do a quick label-reading demonstration right now. Imagine you're in the grocery store. Pick up a bottle of a popular flavored creamer. The first ingredient is often water or milk, but look right after that. You'll almost always see sugar and corn syrup or high fructose corn syrup. These are not just sweeteners, they are metabolic disruptors. High fructose corn syrup, in particular, is metabolized almost exclusively by the liver, which can contribute to the development of fatty liver disease, a condition that is tightly linked to severe insulin resistance. You will also see hydrogenated oils. This is a source of trans fat, which is highly inflammatory and terrible for your heart and blood vessels. Now, let's look at the sugar-free version Brenda was using. The sugar is gone, but it's replaced by artificial sweeteners. While these don't contain calories, a growing body of research suggests they can have negative effects. They can alter the delicate balance of your gut microbiome, the healthy bacteria that play a key role in regulating your metabolism. Some studies also suggest that their intense sweetness can trick your brain, leading to increased cravings for sugary foods later in the day, sabotaging your good intentions. The practical takeaway is to treat these creamers not as a splash of flavor, but as a processed food product. A far better choice is a simple splash of real, whole milk or half and half. Yes, they have natural sugars and fat, but they are whole foods that your body knows how to process. For a non-dairy option, unsweetened almond or soy milk works well. And for flavor, you have wonderful, healthy options that can actually help your blood sugar. A sprinkle of cinnamon has been shown to improve insulin sensitivity. A dash of unsweetened cocoa powder provides antioxidants. A single drop of pure vanilla extract gives you beautiful flavor without any sugar at all. This leads me to my questions for you. First, what is actually in your coffee creamer? I challenge you to go to your refrigerator after watching this and, for the first time, read the full ingredient list, not just the nutrition facts. Second, are you making the common mistake of confusing sugar-free with healthy? Brenda's story shows us they are not the same thing. Once she swapped her chemical-laden creamer for a simple splash of whole milk and a dash of cinnamon, her morning blood sugar levels started to improve within 2 weeks. It was the missing piece of her puzzle. Type "Continue" to receive the next section. We've covered the hidden dangers, but now let's address the obvious culprits, which brings us to our second danger zone: the sugar, syrups, and sweeteners we spoon or pump directly into our mugs. While most people are aware that loading up on sugar isn't healthy, I find that in the context of coffee, there's a tendency to underestimate the cumulative damage. A spoonful here, a pump of syrup there, it seems so small in the moment. But over days, weeks, and years, this seemingly minor habit can amount to a relentless assault on your body's ability to regulate blood sugar, dramatically increasing the risk of developing full-blown diabetes. This is also where timing becomes absolutely critical, because mixing this sugar and caffeine spike with your morning medications can render them significantly less effective, which is our third danger zone. Let's go back to my patient George, the retired accountant. When we first talked, he was adamant that he didn't consume much sugar. Just 2 teaspoons in my coffee, Doc, that's it. But as we dug deeper, we found out he was having 3 of those cups a day. Let's do the math, because the numbers are truly staggering. 1 teaspoon of sugar is about 4 grams. So 2 teaspoons per cup is 8 grams. 3 cups a day is 24 grams of added sugar. That's nearly 170 grams of pure sugar every single week, just from his coffee. That's the equivalent of eating almost 2 entire cans of soda every single day. He was horrified when I showed him what 170 grams of sugar looked like in a bowl. This daily, repeated flood of sugar was keeping his insulin levels chronically elevated. His pancreas was working overtime, constantly pumping out insulin to try to deal with the sugar. Eventually, the cells become so numb to the constant presence of insulin that they stop responding. This is the very essence of type 2 diabetes. This problem is compounded enormously when medication timing is factored in. I had another patient, Maria, who was recently diagnosed with type 2 diabetes and started on metformin, a first-line medication. She would dutifully take her pill every morning with a big gulp of her sweetened coffee. She couldn't understand why her blood sugar was still sky-high 2 hours later. She thought the medication wasn't working. The problem wasn't the medication, it was the delivery system. There are 2 issues at play here. First, coffee itself is acidic and can interfere with how some medications are dissolved and absorbed in the stomach. But the more immediate problem is that she was fighting a battle on 2 fronts. Her metformin was working to decrease sugar production in her liver and increase her cells' sensitivity to insulin. At the exact same time, her coffee was triggering the cortisol response to dump sugar into her blood, and the added sugar was providing a second wave of glucose. She was pressing the brake and the accelerator simultaneously. The accelerator always wins in the short term. This leads us to a simple, non-negotiable rule for anyone on morning medications, especially for diabetes or blood pressure: the 2-hour rule. It's actually quite simple. The very first thing that should pass your lips in the morning is your medication, taken with a full glass of plain water. Nothing else. Wait at least 30 minutes, and ideally 60, before you eat breakfast. Then have your coffee after your meal, not before or with it. This sequence is crucial. It allows the medication to be absorbed into your system properly without interference. It prevents the caffeine from creating a blood sugar surge on an empty stomach and directly counteracting the medicine as purpose. So, I ask you to consider this. First, how much sugar are you truly consuming from your coffee each week? Take a moment to do the honest math like we did for George. The answer might shock you. Second, what is your morning medication routine? Are you combining your pills and your coffee for convenience, without realizing that you may be negating the very benefits of the medicine you rely on? For Maria, simply changing the timing, water and pills first, breakfast an hour later, and then her coffee, made a world of difference. Her post-meal blood sugar readings dropped into a much healthier range, not because her medication changed, but because she was finally giving it a chance to work properly. Type "Continue" to receive the next section. We have discussed the problem, so now let's focus on the solutions. The goal here is not to suggest a life of deprivation or to take away the comfort of a warm morning beverage. The goal is empowerment, to give you safe, healthy, and genuinely enjoyable alternatives so you can take control of your metabolic health without feeling like you're missing out. This involves creating a new morning ritual that serves your body instead of harming it. We'll cover smart alternatives, strategies for transitioning without withdrawal, and finally, a simple testing protocol that will turn you into your own health detective. Let's start with safe alternatives. If you've been using flavored creamers like my patient Brenda, the first step is to swap them for something simple. A splash of whole milk, half and half, or unsweetened almond milk provides creaminess without the chemical cocktail. For flavor, as we discussed, cinnamon is a superstar. It adds a natural sweetness and has been shown to help with insulin sensitivity. A dash of unsweetened cocoa powder or a drop of pure vanilla or almond extract can also transform a boring cup. If it's the caffeine you want to reduce, you don't have to go cold turkey. That can lead to headaches and fatigue. Instead, try mixing your regular coffee with decaf. Start with a half-and-half mixture for a week. The following week, move to 3/4 decaf and 1/4 regular. This gradual step-down approach allows your body to adapt gently. You may also want to explore herbal coffee substitutes. Many are made from roasted chicory or dandelion root, and they offer a robust, rich, and slightly bitter flavor that is very satisfying, but with zero caffeine. They are a wonderful kidney-friendly and blood sugar-safe way to enjoy a dark, coffee-like beverage. The most powerful tool I can give you, however, is a way to see the results for yourself. This brings us to the testing protocol and my call to action for you, the 7-day Coffee Diary Challenge. For 1 week, I want you to get a simple notebook and a glucose meter. Each morning, before you eat or drink anything, test your fasting blood sugar and write it down. Then, prepare your coffee exactly as you normally do and write down everything that goes into it: the cream, the sugar, the syrups. Drink your coffee. Then, wait 2 hours and test your blood sugar again. Write that number down right next to your fasting number. The difference between those two numbers is your personal coffee spike. It's not a number from a textbook, it's your body's real-time data. You will see with your own eyes the impact that cup of coffee is having on your blood sugar. This simple act of measuring is profoundly motivating. After a few days of seeing the spike, you can start to experiment. Try your coffee black and see the difference. Try it with a splash of milk. Try switching to half decaf. With each change, you will get immediate feedback from your own body. This isn't about me telling you what to do, it's about you listening to what your body is telling you. This data will empower you to make informed decisions. You might discover that 1 teaspoon of sugar is fine, but 2 sends your numbers soaring. You might find that black coffee has almost no effect, but your sugar-free creamer causes a significant jump. This is personalized medicine at its most basic and most effective. So my final question for you is this: are you willing to become the lead scientist in the study of your own health? Are you ready to trade assumptions for data? This 7-day challenge can be the single most illuminating thing you do for your metabolic health this year. It will replace fear and uncertainty with knowledge and control. It is the first step in transforming your morning ritual from a potential source of harm into a conscious act of self-care that will help protect you for years to come. Could your dinner be causing morning blood sugar spikes? Hello. I want you to think about something for a moment. You followed your doctor's instructions to the letter. You took your medication on time. You avoided that sugary dessert you were craving. You went to bed feeling confident, only to wake up, prick your finger, and see a number on your glucose meter that makes your heart sink. A morning blood sugar reading that's inexplicably high. If that sounds familiar to you, please know you are not alone. This is one of the most common and deeply frustrating challenges I see in my practice, especially for folks over 50. It feels like you're replaying a game where the rules keep changing, and it can leave you feeling defeated before your day has even begun. But I'm here to tell you that this isn't random. There's a powerful scientific reason this happens, and the good news is the solution might not be in your medicine cabinet. It might be right on your dinner plate. Good morning, Dr. Robert Clark here. Let's start with that frustrating mystery, the high morning blood sugar. You might have heard your doctor mention something called the dawn phenomenon. It sounds a bit poetic, doesn't it? But what it describes is a completely natural process. Between roughly 3 a.m. and 8 a.m., your body starts getting ready for the day. It releases a surge of hormones, including cortisol and growth hormone. These hormones essentially tell your liver, hey, it's almost time to wake up. We need some energy. In response, your liver releases stored glucose into your bloodstream. For someone without diabetes, their pancreas just releases a bit more insulin to handle it, and their blood sugar stays stable. But if you have insulin resistance or are diabetic, your body can't produce enough insulin to counter this surge. The result is that high number you see when you wake up. Now, let me tell you about a patient of mine, George. George was in his late 60s, a retired mechanic who was meticulous about everything, including his health. He came into my office, slumped in his chair, and slid his glucose logbook across my desk. "Doc," he said, "I don't get it. My numbers are perfect all day, but I wake up in the 150s every single morning. Am I doing something wrong?" He was doing everything he was told, but he felt like a failure. His frustration was palpable. The key to helping George was into new medication. It was understanding what was happening inside his body while he slept. Think of your liver as a warehouse manager working the night shift. During the day, when you eat, it stores away excess sugar. At night, it starts releasing that sugar to keep your body fueled. The dawn phenomenon is like the manager getting an order for a big pre-dawn shipment. If your body's insulin, the delivery truck, isn't working efficiently, all that sugar just piles up on the loading dock, which is your bloodstream. George A.'s problem wasn't what he was doing in the morning. It was the fuel he was giving the warehouse manager the night before. His dinner was setting the stage for that morning spike. Have you ever felt that same sense of confusion that George did? Have you ever looked at your glucose meter and just wanted to throw it against the wall? Understanding this science is the first step to taking back control. It's not your fault, it's a physiological process. And once we understand it, we can outsmart it. Now that we understand the why, let's talk about the first and perhaps most critical mistake I see people make. Eating dinner too late. This might sound overly simple, but its impact is profound, especially as we age. The conventional wisdom used to be that a calorie is a calorie, no matter when you eat it. The second major mistake I see is an improperly balanced dinner plate, specifically having the wrong ratio of protein to carbohydrates. We live in a culture that often makes carbohydrates the star of the show. A big pile of pasta, a large baked potato, or multiple slices of bread next to a small piece of meat. Even if you're choosing healthy carbs like brown rice or whole wheat pasta, if they dominate the plate, you are setting yourself up for a significant glucose spike. The key is balance. Let me introduce you to David, a 68-year-old former construction worker. David was a meat and potatoes man, but to manage his diabetes, he'd switched to what he thought was a healthier pasta dinner with a light tomato sauce and a few small meatballs. He'd measure his cup of pasta carefully, thinking he was doing the right thing. But his post-dinner and morning glucose readings were always stubbornly high. The problem was that his meal was probably 75% carbohydrates and only 25% protein and fat. Carbohydrates, even complex ones, break down into sugar relatively quickly. Protein and healthy fats, on the other hand, digest much more slowly. When you eat them alongside carbohydrates, they act like a brake pedal on sugar absorption. They slow down how quickly the sugar from the carbohydrates enters your bloodstream, preventing that sharp, sudden spike and giving your body's insulin a much better chance to keep up. David and I didn't ban his pasta. Instead, we re-engineered his plate. I asked him to cut his pasta portion in half and in its place add double the amount of lean protein, in his case more turkey meatballs, and a large serving of non-starchy vegetables like a big spinach salad with olive oil dressing. The total amount of food on his plate was about the same, but the ratio was completely different. He was skeptical, thinking he'd miss his big bowl of pasta, but he found the new meal was even more satisfying. The protein and healthy fat kept him feeling full for much longer. More importantly, his blood sugar roller coaster began to smooth out into gentle, rolling hills. A very practical way to achieve this is by using what we call the plate method. It's incredibly simple and requires no measuring cups or scales. Imagine your dinner plate. Draw a line down the middle, then split one of the halves in two. Now you have 3 sections. Fill the largest section, that whole half of the plate, with non-starchy vegetables like broccoli, leafy greens, green beans, or bell peppers. Fill one of the small quarters with a lean protein source like fish, chicken, beans, or tofu, and fill the last small quarter with a high-fiber complex carbohydrate like quinoa, sweet potato, or whole grain bread. This simple visual guide naturally creates a healthier ratio of nutrients. So, take a moment and picture your typical dinner plate. What does it look like? Is it a mountain of carbohydrates with a little bit of protein on the side, or is it a balanced landscape of vegetables, protein, and carbs working together? Let's move on to our third dinner mistake, and it's a sneaky one. It's not just about the amount of carbohydrates on your plate, but the type. I'm talking about high glycemic index foods. The glycemic index, or GI, is simply a rating of how quickly a food containing carbohydrates raises your blood sugar. Think of it as a speed rating for sugar delivery. Foods with a high GI are like a rocket. They release sugar into your bloodstream almost instantly. Foods with a low GI are more like a slow-moving train, releasing sugar gradually over time. Eating high GI foods for dinner is like sending a massive, unexpected shipment to that liver warehouse manager we talked about earlier. The liver gets overwhelmed trying to process and store all that sugar at once, and it makes that overnight release of glucose even more chaotic. The most common culprits here are foods made with refined white flour, white bread, white rice, most pastas, and starchy vegetables like white potatoes. Let me tell you about Maria. She was a lovely woman in her late 70s who had grown up eating potatoes with almost every dinner. For her, a meal just wasn't complete without a comforting side of creamy mashed potatoes. She was being careful with her portions, but she couldn't understand why her blood sugar would soar after dinner and stay elevated into the next morning. A serving of mashed potatoes can have a glycemic index even higher than table sugar. It's digested so rapidly that it hits the bloodstream like a tidal wave. For Maria, her beloved comfort food was the primary driver of her morning struggles. We knew we couldn't just take it away from her, it was tied to her sense of comfort and home. So we looked for smart swaps. First, we tried mashed cauliflower. With a little bit of garlic and seasoning, it was surprisingly creamy and satisfying. Then we tried a small baked sweet potato instead of a white potato. Sweet potatoes have a much lower glycemic index and are packed with fiber, which slows sugar absorption even further. Maria found she loved the taste, and making that one simple switch brought her post-dinner blood sugar down by 40 points on average. This is an incredibly practical area to make changes. You don't have to eliminate carbs, you just have to upgrade them. Instead of white rice, try quinoa, which is a complete protein and has a low GI. Instead of white bread for a sandwich, choose a 100% whole grain or stone ground bread with visible seeds and grains. Instead of potatoes, experiment with other roasted vegetables like Brussels sprouts, asparagus, or zucchini. These small upgrades don't just help your blood sugar, they also provide far more fiber, vitamins, and minerals. So ask yourself this: what is the go-to starchy side dish on your dinner plate? And what is one low glycemic swap you could experiment with just one night this week? The fourth mistake is one that often surprises my patients because it involves a food that we all consider to be the pinnacle of health: fruit. Many people, in an effort to avoid processed, sugary desserts, will finish their dinner with a large bowl of fruit salad or a couple of pieces of fruit. While the intention is wonderful, the timing and quantity can create a serious problem for your morning glucose. Here's why. The primary sugar in fruit is called fructose. Unlike glucose, which can be used by almost every cell in your body for energy, fructose has to be processed almost exclusively by your liver. When you eat fruit, the fructose travels directly to that liver warehouse we've been discussing. During the day, when you're active, your liver can easily convert that fructose into glycogen to be stored for later use. But what happens when you eat a lot of fruit late at night, right before you go to bed, and your body's energy demands plummet? Your liver's glycogen stores are likely already full from dinner. So, the liver does the only other thing it can do with the excess fructose. It starts a process called lipogenesis, which means making new fat. It converts the fructose into triglycerides. This process not only contributes to fatty liver disease over time, but also stimulates the liver to push out more glucose into the bloodstream, directly contributing to that high morning reading. I remember a patient, Eleanor, a retired nurse who was incredibly health conscious. She had completely cut out cakes and cookies, and her after-dinner treat was a big bowl of grapes, melon, and banana. She was convinced it was the perfect healthy choice. When we reviewed her food logs and her glucose readings, we saw a clear pattern. On the nights she had her big fruit bowl, her morning numbers were consistently over 170. On the rare night she skipped it, they were closer to 140. The fructose from her healthy dessert was overloading her liver at precisely the wrong time of day. We didn't tell Eleanor to stop eating fruit. Fruit is a fantastic source of vitamins, antioxidants, and fiber. We simply adjusted the timing and portion size. We moved her fruit intake to an afternoon snack when her body was more active and could use the energy efficiently. If she still wanted something sweet after dinner, we limited it to a small handful of berries, which are lower in fructose and higher in fiber, paired with a spoonful of plain Greek yogurt. The protein in the yogurt helped buffer the fruit's sugar absorption. The change was immediate and dramatic. Eleanor could still enjoy the foods she loved, but by respecting her body's metabolic clock, she finally got her morning numbers under control. So, think about your own routine. Do you treat fruit as a free food that you can eat in unlimited quantities, especially at night? Could timing be the missing piece of your blood sugar puzzle? This brings us to our fifth and final dinner-related mistake: falling for the bedtime snack myth. For decades, many people with diabetes were told they must have a snack before bed to prevent their blood sugar from dropping too low overnight. And for a certain group of people, particularly those on specific types of insulin or sulfonylurea drugs, this can be critically important advice to prevent dangerous nocturnal hypoglycemia. However, for a vast and growing number of people managing type 2 diabetes with diet, exercise, and modern medications like metformin, an automatic bedtime snack is not only unnecessary but actively harmful. It ingas like topping off the fuel tank in your car right after you've parked it in the garage for the night. That fuel has nowhere to go. I've had to help so many patients unlearn this ingrained habit. Let me share two contrasting stories. First is Frank. Frank is 75 and has been taking insulin for 20 years. His doctor rightly told him to have a bedtime snack. But Frank's interpretation was a bowl of cereal or a couple of oatmeal cookies. This was far too many carbohydrates. He would experience a sugar spike around midnight and then, fueled by his insulin, a crash around 3 a.m. This crash would then trigger the dawn phenomenon on overdrive as his body panicked and dumped glucose into his bloodstream to save him. He would wake up with a reading of 200 and have no idea why. For Frank, the solution was changing the type of snack to a small handful of almonds and a stick of cheese, mostly protein and fat with very few carbs. It was just enough to stabilize his blood sugar without causing a spike. Now, consider Susan, 65, who was managing her prediabetes with diet and walking. She wasn't on any medication that would cause low blood sugar, but she had heard the old advice, so every night, out of habit, she would eat a piece of toast with peanut butter before bed. It seemed healthy enough, but she was giving her body a dose of carbohydrates it simply didn't need, which her liver then had to process all night long. For Susan, the solution was simple: stop eating the snack. The first few nights she felt a little hungry, so she had a cup of herbal tea. Within a week, her morning blood sugars, which had been hovering in the pre-diabetic range, were now consistently in the normal range. The key is personalization. A bedtime snack is not a universal rule. For most people, especially those who are not on insulin, eating after dinner just adds to the overnight glucose burden. If you must have a snack due to medication or genuine hunger, it must be the right kind, small, and primarily protein and healthy fat. A hard-boiled egg, a few walnuts, or celery sticks with almond butter are excellent choices. They provide stability without the spike. So, I want you to ask yourself honestly, are you eating a bedtime snack out of medical necessity, as prescribed by your doctor, or simply out of habit? Could this be the final piece of the puzzle you need to solve the mystery of your morning highs? I know this is a lot of information, and it can feel overwhelming to think about changing your entire dinner routine. So, I want to make it as simple and practical as possible. I'm going to give you a very straightforward 3-day dinner plan. You can use this as a template to see for yourself how powerful these changes can be. This isn't about bland, boring diet food. It's about delicious, satisfying meals that are scientifically designed to work with your body, not against it. Many of my patients, like a couple named Robert and Joan, felt paralyzed by all the rules. I gave them this exact plan, and they decided to follow it together for 3 days. They reported not only seeing their average morning glucose drop by nearly 30 points each, but they also felt less bloated and had more energy when they woke up. It gave them the proof they needed and the confidence to continue. Here is the plan. Day 1. Lemon herb baked chicken with roasted asparagus and broccoli. For this meal, take a chicken breast and season it with lemon juice, rosemary, thyme, and a little olive oil. On the same baking sheet, toss some asparagus spears and broccoli florets with olive oil, salt, and pepper. Bake it all together at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for about 20 to 25 minutes. Here's why it works. The chicken is a fantastic source of lean protein. The asparagus and broccoli are non-starchy vegetables packed with fiber. This meal is incredibly low in carbohydrates, giving your pancreas and liver a much-needed rest overnight. Day 2. Baked salmon with quinoa and a green salad. Take a nice salmon fillet, season it with dill and garlic, and bake it. Prepare a small portion, about half a cup, cooked, of quinoa. Serve it alongside a large salad of mixed greens, cucumber, and tomatoes with a simple vinaigrette dressing. Why this works. Salmon provides lean protein and anti-inflammatory omega-3 fatty acids. Quinoa is our smart carbohydrate here. It's a low glycemic, high-protein whole grain that provides that satisfying carb element without the rapid sugar spike of white rice. The large salad adds fiber and volume to keep you full. Day 3. Turkey meatballs with zucchini noodles and marinara sauce. You can make your own turkey meatballs or buy pre-made ones. Just check that they don't have a lot of breadcrumb filler. Simmer them in a no-sugar-added marinara sauce. Instead of pasta, serve them over zucchini noodles, which you can make with a spiralizer or buy fresh at most grocery stores. Top with a sprinkle of Parmesan cheese. Why this works. We're satisfying that pasta craving in a blood sugar-friendly way. The turkey meatballs are the protein anchor. The zucchini noodles brilliantly replace high glycemic pasta, providing vitamins and fiber with almost zero carbs. You get all the flavor and comfort of a pasta dinner without the metabolic consequences. Which one of these 3 meals sounds the most delicious to you? Could you commit to trying just 1 or 2 of them this week to see how your body responds? We've covered a lot of ground today, from the science of the dawn phenomenon to 5 of the most common dinner mistakes that can sabotage your morning blood sugar. We've talked about the timing of your meal, the balance of your plate, the type of carbohydrates you choose, the myth of the healthy fruit bowl at night, and the misunderstood bedtime snack. It can seem like a lot, but I want you to boil it down to one single, powerful idea. Your dinner plate is one of the most effective tools you have to manage your health, more powerful than you may have ever imagined. I think of Margaret, a patient who came to me feeling utterly hopeless. She felt her body was betraying her, and she was on the verge of giving up. We didn't add any new medications. We simply focused, with laser precision, on redesigning her dinner habits using the very principles we've discussed today. She started eating earlier. She swapped her mashed potatoes for cauliflower mash. She measured her protein and doubled her vegetables. After just 3 weeks, she came back into my office and handed me her glucose log. Her average morning reading had dropped from 180 to 145. But it wasn't the number that was most important. It was the look in her eyes. The defeat was gone, replaced by a spark of hope and empowerment. "I did that," she said. "I'm the one in control." And she was absolutely right. This journey is not about achieving perfection overnight. It's about making small, sustainable changes that add up over time. It's about progress, not perfection. So here's my call to action for you. Don't try to change everything at once. Pick just one single thing from our discussion today. Maybe it's eating 30 minutes earlier. Maybe it's adding a serving of broccoli to your plate. Maybe it's swapping white rice for quinoa just one time. Commit to that one small change for the next 7 days. And each morning, write down your blood sugar number. Create that data for yourself. Prove to yourself that you have the power to influence that number. What is the one change you are willing to commit to for this week? Making that choice, that single conscious decision, is the first and most important step toward waking up not with frustration, but with the quiet confidence of knowing you are back in the driver's seat of your own health. Thank you for your time.